you need the separate kitchens and the separate plates because the milk stuff can't touch the meat stuff.
Doesn't matter if you washed it; it's got to be separate.
Got to be separate.
It is the After Party Podcast. Oh, look, I'm doing it without a chair.
Oh my God!
Wow. How funny would it have been if you tried to sit just now?
Hilarious, Danielle.
Is that the same chair Scary was buttholing the other day?
You buttholed
Yes.
No. Butthole my chair?
He butt cracked it. I'm sorry.
I had a little plumber's crack going.
I saw that.
That's hot now, right?
Yeah, that's very trendy.
All the rage.
In Milan. And so here we have, of course, you heard Scotty B over in the podcast room for the Serial Killers podcast. Here's Scary and Gandhi.
Hi.
And
Hello.
I see Garrett. And I see Danielle.
Hello.
And Nate, who's falling asleep.
It says non-drowsy. Maybe that it just affects me differently. I don't know.
Were you sleepy before?
Not really.
Oh.
No, he said he got a really good
I actually
night's
got
sleep
a good
last
night's
night.
sleep, but now that pill, I was drugged. I was drugged.
But
With Claritin.
Nate's taken this Claritin so many times and that hasn't happened to him.
I've taken it later in the show, and I'd have to remember if I got sleepier later.
It doesn't seem like the Claritin has actually helped
No,
you.
it's
It does
what
not.
it's supposed to help.
Yep.
Well, okay, so we're all here. What are we talking about?
Should we talk about Nate and Danielle breaking their Lent thing the
It's
day
the
of?
first day. It's the first
Okay,
day.
talk about it. Then let's talk about Lent.
Okay, so today is Ash Wednesday. When we're recording this podcast, and you're supposed to. This is the beginning of Lent before Easter, and you give up something for Lent in the Catholic religion, like a sacrifice, and you also don't have meat on Ash Wednesday, Good Friday, and every Friday during Lent. So Nate reminds me this morning, hey, Danielle, don't forget, we can't eat meat today. I'm like, oh, yeah, you're right. So Nate ordered for breakfast a chicken parm hero, and I said, hey, can I have a bite?
Here they go.
We totally forgot already.
Chicken doesn't count.
Yes, it does. Okay.
I
Some
feel like-
people will argue that, though, to be honest.
what the
But
hell?
Come on.
People who are not Catholics.
Yeah. No.
Or don't know what meat is?
Does it really matter, though, in the grand scheme of things? I feel like, especially on times when St. Patrick's Day falls on a Friday, and, the big staple is corned beef and cabbage, all of a sudden all the priests come in and say, it's okay. Even though it's Friday, you can have your corned beef and cabbage today. So and everyone's absolved, and all of a sudden the rules get thrown out the door. So if you can if the rules are a matter of convenience, then who cares?
Well, then
So
they're
you
not
bit into
rules
it. It's not a
anymore.
big. There's no rule. Who cares?
I think I'm assuming, Danielle, you are the deepest practicing Catholic in the
I
room.
guess. But
Okay, I guess.
I go to church every Sunday. At least
then
I try
there's
to.
that.
They should come up with a new set of rules. Aren't those very antiquated, like Bible and everything?
Okay, so it said, the non-Catholic person.
Yeah.
It says that abstinence from meat on certain days is one of the oldest Christian traditions from the 1st century. The day of the crucifixion has been traditionally observed as a day of abstaining from flesh, from meat, to honor
no
Christ.
sex.
I'm not done.
Oh.
To honor Christ who sacrificed his flesh on a Friday.
Okay, I get that.
So that's what they're saying.
But don't they also stone whores?
And see,
And witches.
I don't think they do that anymore.
Okay, just
And like
So
slavery
why
was
the
okay if you were nice to your slave or something like that?
I don't know why they gave an
Why the
exception
exceptions?
that day. I think it was one day when it was on
But,
Friday.
but it's an exception, though.
Yeah,
so,
I don't know.
why would an exception be allowed?
I have no idea. You have to look that up.
But I was serious about my no sex question because if it's no flesh, does that mean no exchanging of sex? Like
I
that's
know.
flesh
No
on flesh.
eating of
I
flesh.
think consuming.
Yeah. Well, you're
Unless
actually
Okay, so
supposed
same
Army
question.
Hammer.
and you're actually not supposed to have big meal. I think you're only supposed to have one big meal for the day. I think you're, especially on Good Friday and
You're supposed to fast.
and
yes.
yeah.
It's more of a custom than
Wednesday.
anything else. Then.
It really is not. You who do not follow any Catholic anything.
Listen, I'm a Catholic, but
Danielle
I
gets
just
so
I
mad at
want
everybody.
logic. I
I
don't
get
want.
so mad at him
Because it's-
he's
because
so
it's-
ridiculous.
frankly,
your
it's-
mother right now is looking down and she's like, scary.
No, she would agree with me. It's downright hypocritical
She did
to
raise
make
it.
rules and then all of a sudden say, well, on this day, we could throw the rules out.
So I would look up
I happen
why
to
they
kind of
did
agree
that.
with that.
But-
What say you,
Nate,
Gandhi?
Look up why they did
No,
that.
I'm 100% on board. To me, all things religion, I'm out. So I agree with all of the let's argue about this. Let's question
okay, but
this.
hold
It's
on. There
great.
is something to be said for being a student of religion.
Sure.
Yes.
And so, if that's the case, if you're a student of, let's say, Catholicism, do you think it's okay for them to be just throwing out the rules if it's convenient for them?
Well, isn't this sort of in some ways, like the Constitution, there were rules, and then they realized these were silly, so they amended them. I mean, the no meat thing came from a place of trying to help out the fishermen, right?
That's one of the rumors in that I think it was the Pope's brother or something owned a fishing fleet. So he said, well, you can't eat meat.
How convenient.
Yeah, but
That
you
was- I
can't
don't know
eat
if that's 100%
fish.
true.
Yeah, so I mean, maybe as time changes, things can change, and that's okay. You're not throwing everything out the window. You're just changing.
But wait, there's a difference. In making these amendments to switch up the Constitution, they were amendments that were made.
Yeah.
Nothing in the Catholic Church said, we got together, took a vote. Okay, go have a steak.
So you're saying you can't rewrite the Bible?
Well,
I don't think you're supposed to.
People just
reinterpret
interpret
it.
and do what's best for them.
It's about time.
I mean, I have to say that
I'm with Nate. Follow the money.
popes change. Oh my God! God bless us, everyone.
go ahead.
He's got a
That
point.
as we've the church has evolved over the years. They have changed different things and have been more accepting of different things. Even when I'm there on Sunday and the priest is doing his homily, a lot of times they'll say things that I don't think they would have said years ago.
It has changed, but you can't. I grew up Catholic. I was an altar boy. I actually wanted to be a priest at one point when I was younger.
Not too late.
Actually, I could be. You have to admit, though, Danielle, some things are 300 or 400 years past the time they should have changed.
Yes, but at the same time, a lot of people believe in tradition, and
Well, I mean, I remember serving the Mass in Latin. I had no clue what the hell they were saying.
But okay, let's say the church, Catholic Church, is a little more lax in this area, that area. Isn't it because it's on record because the Pope at some point said, you know what, we should just calm down on that.
The Pope now, I think, has.
I think it was in the 60s.
pulled
They
back a
had
little bit,
the whatever council that changed the way the Mass was done, and they really kind of updated things in the 60s. Because prior to that, everything was in Latin.
And actually, not too long ago, because I was teaching Catholic school, we had to take a class on updated things in the Mass on Sundays where they changed certain words.
Yeah, they changed that like 15 years, like 20 years ago.
yeah.
They changed responses. And
Well, I'm not Catholic. I don't know
Yeah.
what you're talking about.
What are you?
Good
Where
question.
were you raised?
Have I been raised at this point?
No, you went to church when you were younger, I think.
Oh, I gotta get this call.
Oh, wow. There he goes.
Oh, yeah.
So my mom and I have this conversation about Hinduism in
Yeah.
some ways. So when you go to the temple, if you're wearing shorts, they don't want you to come in. So a lot of times people from other religions or other cultures, they'll come to the temple because they want to check it out, and they
Yeah.
won't let them in because they're wearing shorts. And my mom says, I just think this is so silly because if what we want is to include people and to help people,
Yeah.
let them in, man. They're
I
from
agree.
somewhere else. Don't
Agreed.
exclude people based on
Yeah.
these like ancient things.
I remember that because you go to church, people generally dress up. Well, they
No,
used to dress
they
up.
used to dress up. Nobody
Which
dresses up
25
anymore.
years ago, you would get
Yeah.
the stink eye from people if you were wearing shorts or jeans.
Sunday best.
I look at
But
it like
they were
this.
there.
But
Yeah,
I look at it. That's
absolutely.
how I look at it. I look at it like we're here. I wouldn't wear something that says "bootylicious" on my butt, which I have seen before in the church.
Amazing.
But people, if you're
there,
there
hey.
and you're there, and whatever. Some people, I think a lot of times, some people are coming from somewhere and they're running late and they need to get to church and maybe they're not dressed appropriately. If you're there, and you're worshiping, you made an effort. I think.
Scotty, do you
know?
dress up when you go to temple? Do you wear the?
I've
the
been to
hat?
temple since my bar mitzvah, so I couldn't tell you.
Jesus.
I'm a fair weather Jew.
Okay.
Fair weather. It's been 35 years.
Yeah, you're not supposed to mix milk and meat.
No, that's only if you're kosher. See, you don't. Not all Jews are kosher.
And what about eating pork?
And I also think that's antiquated too. It's before they had refrigeration. That's where all that stuff came from.
Really?
And
Yeah.
pork?
Yeah, well, pork. I don't care. I'll eat pork all day.
So how do you decide to
Go
become
on.
kosher? How
You
does
do
that
what you
work?
want.
No, but okay. So you had a choice at some point.
I think it's just a different. I mean, if you're Orthodox and this and that,
Yeah, there's different.
I was raised very Reformed, so I mean,
I
basically
have
never gone
I
to
have a
35
friend who's such an Orthodox Jew. He told me that if his daughter married out of the Orthodox tradition, he would disown her.
Yeah, that happens a lot.
And I'm very good friends with him. And I said, so I don't understand if they're in love. And he goes, it doesn't matter.
Doesn't
He's
matter.
like, I will disown her. She will no longer be my child. That's
you know
what
what?
he told me.
What's important for me though, within Judaism, is just the traditions. I get together with my family on the
Yeah.
holidays, and we do that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It's not. I'm not a super Jew. I mean, it's just.
Right. So you don't have two dishwashers, two refrigerators, and
No, but I had friends that had two separate kitchens.
two kitchens. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, explain the two.
One is
kitchens
for
real-
milk, one is for meat.
That's right.
And
like if,
plates,
had it
certain
entirely
plates, right? You can't eat
Yeah.
off a certain
yeah, and
plate.
if you go to like a any place that's kosher, like so the bagel place near my house is kosher, and you can't get sausage or bacon or ham or any of that. It's just dairy. That's it.
But to your point, I think Nate was asking, you need the separate kitchens and the separate plates because the milk stuff can't touch the meat stuff.
Doesn't matter if you washed it; it's got to be separate.
Got to be separate.
And
Two
if it does,
dishwashers.
like you have to bury a plate or something, right?
Bury a plate?
Yeah, like if they touch.
I don't. You know more about it than I do.
Oh, okay. I saw it on Curb Your Enthusiasm. So
and if you notice, kosher places, they serve either milk products or beef products, but not both.
And they
meat
also
products.
sometimes will say, we use separate cutlery, separate whatever to cut this, so that very kosher people don't have to worry about it.
Yeah. My friend moved into a house with 2 dishwashers and 2 sinks. He's like, "What's going on here?" Like, it was formerly owned by Hasidic Jewish.
Right, and do you know that like really, really religious Jewish people on the Sabbath, they really can't do it. They don't drive or anything like that, and they can't even. There are Sabbath elevators in some buildings in the city where it just stops on every floor because they can't push the buttons.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
It's called the Sabbath elevator,
That with everything nowadays changing and the world changing the way that it is, and we're given so many of these privileges, I respect these religions that stick to their traditions and their beliefs, and they don't. Saturday is like considered a holy day, and they don't drive, and they like, to me that's like, wow, because it gets harder and harder to do those things.
At the core of it, I think you just need to be a good person.
Yes.
Yeah.
Of course.
If you have 2 refrigerators, or you say the mass the way that they used to 20 years ago, if you're not a good person, none of that matters.
Right.
And see, from my experience with each generation, it gets less and less and less because my friends that had the separate kitchens, their kids were kind of kosher, and their kids, they don't care.
Yeah.
It's like, so it kind of dissipates over time.
A lot of Indian people have 2 kitchens. It's not religious. They just have a kitchen that's got more ventilation so that like the smells don't sink into the furniture and the carpet. And,
I see.
a lot of garlic or curry powder.
I grew up in a Jewish area. We actually all lived in adjacent neighborhoods. And when I went for a hospital visit, and I got on the Sabbath elevator on a Saturday once, and I'm sitting there, and I had to go to like the 8th floor for the visit. I'm like, stopping on 2 and 3 and 4 and 5.
You thought some kid was in there that pushed all the buttons.
Yeah, but meanwhile, none of the buttons were lit. I'm like, what's going on here? But that's when I learned about it. So it's kind of become part of my life and my experiences. So, I don't really look at it weird. I just, I'm like, okay, cool. You understand? You see what I'm saying?
I took a world religions class in college, and I wish I had taken that when I was 7. Because I realized at that age, boy, Taoism is so cool. And it's basically just being in touch with nature, right? It's not, you've got to genuflect. And like Danielle, you've got to do all these certain things when you go into a Catholic church. And God knows if I remember.
I love the word genuflect.
I'm back of the podcast. We're
What
still
was your
talking
religion?
about that?
Yes.
Huh?
What
was your religion?
I didn't have one.
Satanism, right?
We're talking about the Jewish traditions now. We've moved over.
Have you ever taken religion classes?
I'm a
in college?
Taoist. I
course,
realized that after taking them.
Yeah.
And I found it fascinating, and I found that each and every religion that we studied had bits and pieces of beautiful, beautiful, beautiful things that could all be made into one super religion.
And oftentimes they have pieces of other religions that they've clearly taken inspiration from.
Notice, why do all of the holidays in all of the major faiths really kind of land around the same time?
Why is that, Nate?
Because it was festivals, and they just kind of piggybacked off all of these other religions,
Like
The way
Sheldon's
that it all timed out.
Episcopalian, and we're Catholic, and it's very, very similar. I went to an Episcopalian church in England, and and I said, "This is the same exact." It was the same exact mass.
They're more fun.
But they have less rules than the Catholic Church. Yes.
Well, like the story of Moses being floated down the river and the story of Krishna being floated down the river are almost the same story.
Suspect. Very sus.
Just saying.
So I got back just in time to say goodbye.
Yeah, you did.
So the podcast is done.
Yes.
I'm glad we had this time together, even though my time with you was shorter than your time with each other.
And the rest of us.
Have a beautiful day.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.